The crowbar whistled through the Montana dusk, aimed straight at Riley Shaw's skull. She didn't flinch. Her hand shot up, redirected the arc, and in one fluid motion she drove the biker's face into his own windshield. Glass exploded like frozen rain. The parking lot went silent. They'd kicked her in the back, thinking she was just another woman they could intimidate. They had no idea she'd spent 12 years as a Navy MP, or that she'd taken down armed insurgents with less effort than it took to shift gears in her 18-wheeler. But now they knew. And this was just the beginning. Stay with me till the end of this story, and drop a comment with your city, so I can see how far Riley's journey travels across the world. The wind cut across the Big Sky Plateau like a blade fresh from the whetstone, carrying with it the scent of diesel and coming snow. Riley Shaw downshifted her Peterbilt 579, feeling the familiar rumble through the steering wheel as Shaw Transport's logo, a simple shield with her surname in block letters, caught the last rays of sunlight. 37 years old, lean as a winter wolf, with hands that bore the calluses of both steering wheels and service weapons, she guided the 18-wheeler into the Highline fuel stop, with the precision of someone who'd parked in tighter spots under hostile fire. The truck sighed to a stop. Riley killed the engine and sat for a moment in the sudden quiet, her eyes already scanning the lot. Old habits, the kind that kept you breathing when breathing wasn't guaranteed. 3 motorcycles near the diner entrance, custom builds too clean for casual riders. A rusted pickup with Montana plates backing into a corner spot driver staying put. 2 sedans, both occupied, engines running. Her internal threat board lit up yellow, not red. Not yet. She grabbed her jacket, worn leather, no patches, and dropped from the cab. Her boots hit pavement with a solid thunk. The wind immediately tried to strip the warmth from her bones, but she'd felt worse. Kandahar in August. Camp Lejeune in January. This was just Montana being Montana. The diner's neon sign buzzed and flickered, Highline fuel stop, hot coffee, cold beer, honest food. Riley pushed through the door, and the warmth hit her like a wall. The smell of fryer oil coffee and pie crust wrapped around her senses. Conversations dimmed for a heartbeat as heads turned the eternal small-town assessment of strangers, then resumed at a lower volume. Earl Miller, the owner, looked up from behind the counter, 60-something, with a face like weathered granite and eyes that had seen enough of life to know when to speak and when to shut up. He gave Riley a slight nod. She returned it. They had an understanding built over a dozen fuel stops and exactly 0 wasted words. "Usual booth?" Earl asked, already reaching for a coffee pot. "Yeah." Riley's voice carried the flat affect of someone who'd learned that emotion was a luxury you couldn't afford in certain professions. She moved to the back corner booth, the one with sight lines to both the entrance and the kitchen exit. Force of habit, the kind that kept you breathing. She slid onto the cracked vinyl, her back to the wall, and accepted the coffee Earl brought over. Black, hot enough to strip paint. Perfect. "News is on," Earl said, tilting his head toward the mounted TV in the corner. "Might want to listen." Riley's eyes tracked to the screen. A perfectly coiffed anchorwoman with teeth too white for reality was speaking. "The Iron Vultures Motorcycle Club, now under federal investigation for suspected involvement in a multi-state smuggling operation. Authorities warn that members may be armed and dangerous. If you see anything suspicious..." The diner's atmosphere shifted. Conversations stopped mid-word. Silverware paused halfway to mouths. Riley watched it all in her peripheral vision, her face betraying nothing. But her mind was already 3 steps ahead, cataloging exits, assessing potential threats, calculating response times. The door chimed. 4 men entered in a formation that was trying too hard to look casual. The lead was massive 6'3", maybe 250, with a beard that looked like it housed its own ecosystem. Leather vest studded with patches Iron Vultures MC Road, Captain, and one that said Hammer in Gothic script. Mason Dane. Riley knew the type. Had arrested a dozen just like him in her MP days. The kind who confused volume with authority and intimidation with strength. His eyes swept the room with the lazy confidence of a predator who'd never met anything that could hurt him back. They landed on Riley tracked to the window where her truck sat like a monument to independence, then back to her face. Something flickered in his expression. Recognition, no. Assessment. She was alone. Female. Smaller than his crew. His brain was doing math it didn't have the education to complete. The three with him spread out textbook flanking positions probably learned in county lockup, rather than any proper tactical training. One had a spider web tattoo crawling up his neck. Another wore rings on every finger, the kind that turned a punch into a felony. The third was younger, maybe 25, with eyes that kept moving like a tweaker 3 days into a bender. They took a table near the center. Strategic mistake. No wall coverage, too many angles of approach. But then they weren't here for defense. Jay, the teenage busboy, approached their table with a laminated menu clutched like a shield. 17, maybe 18, with the kind of thin frame that said he hadn't quite grown into his height yet. His hand trembled slightly as he set down water glasses. "Welcome to Highline," Jay said, his voice cracking on the second syllable. "Can I get you gentlemen something to drink while you look at the menu?" Mason didn't look at him. His eyes were still on Riley. "Coffee," he said. 4 cups, and tell your boss we need to have a conversation. Business conversation." Jay glanced toward Earl, who was wiping down the counter with methodical precision, his jaw set in a way that said he'd heard every word and liked none of them. I'll let him know," Jay stammered. "You do that, kid." Mason's smile had all the warmth of a mortuary drawer. "Run along now." Riley took a sip of her coffee, watching the reflection in her spoon. Mason was whispering to Spiderweb, who nodded and pulled out his phone. Rings was cracking his knuckles in a rhythm that was probably supposed to be intimidating. Tweaker kept glancing at the door like he expected the cavalry to arrive any second. Amateurs playing at professional. Earl brought their coffee himself, setting the cups down with controlled force. "If you've got business, talk to me outside. This is a family establishment." Mason leaned back his chair, creaking under his weight. "Relax, old man. We're just here for a meal, and maybe a friendly chat with some of the entrepreneurs using this stretch of highway." His eyes cut to Riley again. "For instance, that pretty rig outside. Shaw Transport. Independent operator, right? No big company backing her up." Riley set down her cup with deliberate care. The sound of ceramic on Formica seemed unnaturally loud. "Not interested," she said. Her voice was level, almost bored, but anyone with real training would have heard the steel underneath. The absolute certainty of someone who'd drawn lines in the sand and defended them against worse than what was sitting 20 feet away. Mason's smile widened. "Didn't even hear my pitch yet, sweetheart." The diner held its breath. An elderly couple in the front booth gathered their things with the urgent casualness of people who'd learned to recognize trouble. A trucker at the counter left cash on top of his bill and made for the door without asking for change. "Don't need to." Riley's hands remained visible on the table, relaxed, non-threatening, but positioned exactly where they could move fastest. "I run clean, I run solo, and I don't pay for protection. I don't need. We done..." Spiderweb laughed, a sound like gravel in a garbage disposal. "Oh, you need it, honey. You just don't know it yet. Things happen out on these roads. Cargo gets lost. Trucks break down in unfortunate places. Would be a shame if..." "Enough." Earl's voice cut through the threat like a cleaver through gristle. "You boys finish your coffee and move along, or I call the sheriff." Mason stood slowly, using every inch of his height. "Call whoever you want, old man. We're just having a conversation. Freedom of speech, right?" He started toward Riley's booth, his crew falling in behind him like pilot fish trailing a shark. Riley didn't move, didn't even shift her weight. But something in her eyes changed. A flatness that combat veterans would recognize instantly. The look of someone calculating angles, distances, vulnerable points. The look of someone who'd been here before and knew exactly how it ended. Mason stopped at her table close enough that she could smell the stale beer on his breath. "See, the thing is, this territory has rules, old rules, respectful rules. You want to run freight through here, you pay the toll. Think of it as highway insurance. I think of it as extortion." Riley's voice hadn't changed pitch or volume. "And I think you should step back. Now." His hand shot out fast for a big man and grabbed the pendant hanging from her neck. A simple silver disc engraved with coordinates. A gift from her unit marking the place they'd held against a 3-hour assault with ammunition running low and air support delayed by a sandstorm. "Pretty," Mason said, his thumb rubbing the metal. "What's this supposed to be, some kind of—" Riley's hand moved. It wasn't a slap, wasn't a grab. Her fingers found the nerve cluster on the inside of his wrist with the precision of a surgeon and the intent of a striker. She pressed twisted and peeled his hand away from her pendant in one smooth motion. Mason's face went white, then red. His knees buckled involuntarily. "Don't," Riley said softly, "touch my things." She released him. He stumbled back, cradling his wrist, shock and rage warring across his features. His crew tensed hands, moving toward waistbands. The math in the room changed instantly. Riley's eyes tracked every movement, her body language still relaxed, but coiled like a spring under tension. "You bitch!" Mason hissed. "You just made the biggest mistake of your out!" Earl had a shotgun. Not pointed at anyone, just resting in the crook of his arm, the universal language of property rights in Montana. "Now, before I decide you're a threat to my customers." For a long moment, nobody moved. The clock above the register ticked. The coffee maker gurgled. Somewhere in the kitchen, a timer went off. Then Mason smiled. It was worse than his anger. "Sure," he said. "We'll go. But you," he pointed at Riley, "you're gonna regret this. Count on it." They filed out Mason last, each of them turning to memorize her face. The door swung shut behind them. The diner exhaled collectively. "You okay?" Earl asked Riley, the shotgun disappearing back under the counter. "Fine." She picked up her coffee. Her hand was steady as a surgeon's. "They'll be waiting outside." "How do you know?" "Because it's what I'd do if I were stupid." Earl almost smiled. "Want me to call the sheriff now?" Riley considered. Outside, through the window, she could see the bikers gathered by their motorcycles conferring. Mason kept glancing at her truck, at the diner, back at his crew. Planning. Escalating. "Not yet," she said. "Let's see what they choose. And if they choose wrong, then the sheriff will have paperwork to do." Jay approached with a trembling pot of coffee. "Refill, ma'am?" "Thanks, Jay." Riley watched him pour, noting how the stream wavered. "You did good keeping calm." "I was terrified. Smart. Fear keeps you sharp. Just don't let it control you." She looked up at him. "And Jay, when this goes sideways, not if when you get behind the counter and stay there. Understand?" His eyes widened. "You think they're going to—" I know they are. Men like that can't walk away from embarrassment. Their whole identity is built on being feared. I just showed them they're not scary. So yeah, they're going to do something stupid, probably in the next 10 minutes. Shouldn't we call? I need you to do something for me, Riley interrupted. You have a phone. Yeah, but I need you to record what happens, not for social media, for evidence. Can you do that? Jay swallowed hard, then nodded. Yeah, I can do that. Good man. Now go help Earl, and remember behind the counter. As Jay retreated, Riley pulled out her own phone and opened a voice recorder. She set it on the table, inconspicuous but active. Then she looked out the window. The bikers had moved to the far end of the lot, near her truck. Mason was on his phone. Spiderweb was checking something in a pickup, the same rusted one that had been backing into the corner earlier. Rings and Tweaker were spreading out, creating a perimeter. Classic ambush setup. Block the exits, control the space. Overwhelm with numbers and aggression. Riley finished her coffee and stood. Earl looked at her like she was crazy. You're going out there. They're by my truck. And they're not going to leave until we settle this. She pulled on her jacket. Besides, better outside than in here. Fewer civilians. Riley. It was the first time Earl had used her name. There's 4 of them. I know. She moved toward the door. But I've had worse odds in worse places. And Earl, if I'm not back in 5 minutes, then call the sheriff. Not before. I need this clean. Clean for what? Riley pushed open the door. The wind hit her again, colder now, carrying the promise of the storm building over the mountains. Clean for court, she said, and stepped into the parking lot. The gravel crunched under her boots. 30 yards to her truck. 25, 20. Mason and his crew watched her approach, spreading out flanking. Textbook intimidation. The kind that worked on normal people. Riley wasn't normal people. Going somewhere, Mason called out. He'd positioned himself by her driver's side door, arms crossed, trying to look immovable. Getting in my truck, Riley said. Moving along like you suggested. See, that's the thing. He pushed off from the Peterbilt. You disrespected me in there, in front of people. Can't let that slide. Bad for business, you understand. Riley stopped walking. 15 feet separated them. Attack range for a committed rush. Too far for an effective grab, too close for comfort. I understand you're making a mistake, she said. Last chance to walk away. Spiderweb laughed from her left. Hear that, Hammer? She's giving us chances. Ain't that sweet? Real sweet. Mason's hand dropped to his belt. For a weapon, Riley's muscles tensed, ready. But he just adjusted his jeans. Playing it out. Building to it. You know what, I think that truck of yours needs an inspection. Safety check. Never know what might be wrong with it. Touch my truck, you'll regret it. Will I? Mason took a step forward. Then another. See, I don't think you understand the situation here. You're alone. We're not. You're small. We're not. You're a woman. And you're about to be on the ground, Riley said. Your choice. Back off or find out. Mason's face darkened. Bitch, I'm gonna... He lunged, fast but telegraphed. Riley had seen the shoulder dip, the weight shift. She sidestepped minimum movement, maximum efficiency. His momentum carried him past her. She could have struck then kidney, liver, spine, but didn't. De-escalation first, always. Don't, she said. Mason whirled, breathing hard. His crew was moving in now, the circle tightening. Riley's back was to her truck. Exactly where she wanted to be. Wall behind her, threats in front. Limited angles of attack. Hold her, Mason snarled. Rings came from the right arms, outstretched for a grab. Riley waited until he was committed, then drove the heel of her palm up into his solar plexus. Not hard enough to kill, just hard enough to empty his lungs and short-circuit his nervous system. He folded like a bad poker hand. Tweaker rushed from the left. Riley dropped low, swept his leg, and used his own momentum to plant his face in the gravel. He went down hard, groaning. Spiderweb pulled a knife. Finally. An actual weapon she could justify responding to. "That's a felony," Riley said calmly. "Assault with a deadly weapon. You sure you want that on your record?" "I'm sure I want to cut that pretty face," he hissed, and came in with a wild slash. Riley's training kicked in, not the civilian self-defense kind, but the military combatives kind. The kind that assumed your opponent wanted you dead and responded accordingly. She caught his wrist, rotated it against the joint, and stripped the knife in one practiced motion. Then she drove her elbow into his temple. Not full force, she wasn't trying to kill him, but enough. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. 3 down. 1 to go. Mason had a crowbar. Where the hell had he gotten a crowbar? Must have grabbed it from the pickup. His face was purple with rage veins standing out on his forehead. "You're dead!" he screamed and swung. Riley had trained against baton attacks, knife attacks, rifle butts. A crowbar was just a modified impact weapon. She read the arc, stepped inside his range, and jammed his elbow. The crowbar whistled past her ear, missing by inches. Then she struck. 3 points of contact executed in under 2 seconds. Palm strike to his chin, to snap his head back, foot, sweep to take out his base, and a throw that used his own weight and momentum against him. Mason left the ground airborne for a brief, almost comical moment, his arms windmilling. Then gravity remembered him. He hit the windshield of the rusted pickup face first, the glass spider-webbed cracks radiating out from the impact point. Mason slid down the hood and crumpled to the ground, dazed, blood streaming from his nose. Riley stood over him, breathing controlled, not even winded. She rolled up her left sleeve, revealing the tattoo on her inner wrist. Not a decorative piece, but a service tattoo. EGA, Eagle Globe and Anchor. And beneath it, in small block letters, MP. The few people watching from the diner gasped. Earl's hand, which had been reaching for the phone, paused. Mason looked up at her through blood and broken pride, his eyes finally registering what he should have seen from the beginning. This wasn't a civilian truck driver. This was a trained combatant who'd been holding back the entire time. "Military police," Riley said quietly. 12 years. 2 tours. I've taken down armed insurgents, Mason. You really think a crowbar was going to work?" He tried to speak, but only blood bubbled out. Riley pulled out her phone. "Now about that sheriff call." The sound of sirens cut through the wind. Distant, but growing closer. Someone had called anyway. Good. She looked at Jay, who was filming from the diner window phone pressed against the glass. Smart kid? Evidence. Everything recorded. Mason groaned, trying to push himself up. Riley placed her boot on his shoulder. No pressure, just presence. "Stay down," she advised. "You've made enough bad choices today. Don't add resisting arrest to the list." This ain't over," Mason slurred through broken lips. Riley looked down at him, and for just a moment her eyes held something beyond professional competence. A hardness earned in places where mercy was a luxury and hesitation was death. "Yeah," she said softly. "It is. You just don't know it yet." The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flickered against the mountains. The wind picked up, carrying the first cold drops of rain. And Riley Shaw stood in the parking lot of the Highline fuel stop, absolutely still waiting for the law to arrive. Behind her in the pickup's shattered windshield, a spiderweb of cracks caught the dying light and held it frozen like the moment before everything changed. 4 men down. 0 regrets. Just another Thursday on the road. The first patrol car slid into the lot, gravel spraying. Then a second. Deputy Lorna Reeves stepped out of the lead vehicle hand near her service weapon, eyes scanning the scene with the systematic thoroughness of someone who knew that what you didn't see could kill you. She took in the tableau, 4 men down, 1 woman standing blood on gravel-broken glass, catching the police lights. "Well," Deputy Reeves said, approaching carefully. "Somebody want to tell me what happened here?" Mason, still on the ground, spat blood and pointed at Riley with a shaking finger. "That bitch attacked us, unprovoked. She's—" "Lying," Riley interrupted. She held up her phone. "It's all recorded, audio and video, self-defense witnessed by multiple civilians, and Deputy, you might want to run these men's IDs. I think you'll find they're persons of interest in a federal investigation." Reeves's eyebrows rose. She keyed her radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 4. I need backup and medical at Highline Fuel Stop. 4 injured, 1 female, reporting self-defense. Also run a check on—" She looked at Mason. "Name? Fuck you." "That's not going to make this easier, son." Reeves turned to Riley. "And you are Riley Shaw, independent contractor, Shaw Transport. Former military police, honorably discharged." Riley kept her hands visible, non-threatening. "These men attempted extortion inside the diner, then assault in the parking lot. Everything's on camera. Multiple witnesses. I used minimum necessary force to defend myself." "Minimum," Tweaker groaned from the gravel. "She broke my fucking nose." "You pulled a knife," Riley said flatly. "I took it. You're lucky that's all I took." Reeves studied Riley with new interest. "Military police. 12 years, mostly stateside, some overseas. I know the law, Deputy. I know use of force, and I know I stayed within the boundaries." "We'll see about that." But Reeves's tone had shifted from suspicious to professional. She recognized a fellow enforcer. "You have ID." Riley slowly reached for her wallet, produced her driver's license and her Veterans Affairs card. Reeves examined them, then looked at Riley's wrist, where the MP tattoo was still visible. "Camp Lejeune?" Reeves asked. "Among others." Something passed between them, the unspoken recognition of those who'd served. Reeves nodded slightly. "All right, Ms. Shaw. You're going to need to come to the station, give a full statement. But for now, step over to my vehicle. Separate the parties, standard procedure." "Understood." As Riley walked toward the patrol car, Earl emerged from the diner, Jay trailing behind, with his phone still recording. "Deputy," Earl called out. "I saw the whole thing. They started it. Threatened her inside, waited for her outside. She tried to walk away. They attacked first." Jay held up his phone. "I got video. All of it. She warned them. Multiple times. They wouldn't stop." Reeves looked at the phone, then at Earl, then at the 4 bikers, 3 groaning on the ground, 1 unconscious against the pickup. "This true, Earl? You're willing to testify?" The old man hesitated. Riley could see the calculation in his eyes. Testifying against the Iron Vultures meant consequences. Might mean his diner became a target. Might mean worse. But Earl had been a Marine. Back in Vietnam, when the world was on fire and honor still meant something. "Yeah," he said. "I'll testify. Somebody's got to stand up to these bastards." Reeves keyed her radio again. "Dispatch, upgrade my earlier request. I need a supervisor and a detective. We've got federal interest subjects and multiple witnesses. This just got complicated." The ambulance arrived, then another patrol car, then an unmarked sedan. The parking lot transformed into a crime scene yellow tape, and evidence markers blooming like strange flowers. Riley sat in the back of Reeves's patrol car, not cuffed, not arrested, but separated. She watched through the window as the scene unfolded. Mason being loaded onto a stretcher, still conscious, still glaring at her. Spiderweb handcuffed to a gurney, cursing. Rings and Tweaker trying to give statements while medics checked their injuries. A detective approached late 40s gray at the temples. eyes that had seen every variety of human stupidity and remained thoroughly unimpressed. He tapped on Riley's window. Reeves opened the door. "Ms. Shaw, I'm Detective Kowalski. Need to ask you some questions." "Of course." He pulled out a notebook. Old school. No tablet, no phone. Just paper and pen. "You always this calm after putting 4 men in the hospital?" "They're not in the hospital. Not yet. Minor injuries, mostly pride." Riley's voice remained level. "And yes, training. You learn to compartmentalize." Kowalski studied her. "Reeves says you're former MP." "Correct." "What unit?" Riley rattled off her service number, her last duty station, her commanding officer's name. Information he could verify in minutes. Kowalski wrote it down, then looked at her directly. "Why'd you leave?" "It was a test. Checking for tells for hesitation, for the kind of answers that indicated someone running from something." "Honorable discharge. My father got sick. Needed family around. I came home, took care of him till the end, then started the trucking business. Clean record, clean life." Riley met his gaze steadily. "You can verify all of it." "I will." Kowalski flipped a page. "These men, you knew they were iron vultures." "Heard it on the news in the diner, saw the patches, put it together." "And you still engaged them?" "I didn't engage anyone, Detective. I defended myself when they attacked. There's a difference." "Semantic difference, some might say." "Legal difference," Riley corrected. "I'm sure the video will show I retreated until retreat was no longer viable. I used minimum force necessary. I didn't strike anyone until they struck first, or presented a weapon. That's not engagement. That's self-defense." Kowalski almost smiled. "You sound like a lawyer." "I sound like someone who was trained in use of force and takes it seriously." He made another note. "The one you threw into the windshield. Mason Dane. You know who he is? Road captain for the Vultures, according to the patches. He's also a person of interest in 3 ongoing investigations. Smuggling, extortion, assault. We've been trying to build a case for months." And Kowalski looked at her. "And you just gifted us assault charges with multiple witnesses and video evidence." Riley shrugged. "Happy to help." "That easy?" "Detective, I didn't plan this. I stopped for coffee. They started something they couldn't finish. The fact that it helps your investigation is just coincidence." Kowalski's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression changed. Surprise, then something harder. He looked at Riley with new intensity. "Your service record just came back." "That was fast." "We have contacts. Silver Star, Purple Heart." Riley said nothing. "Says here you took down an armed cell in Kandahar province, held a position for 3 hours against overwhelming odds, saved 14 lives." He looked at her. "The report says you were wounded. Twice. Kept fighting anyway." "It was my job." "Your job was to survive long enough for the QRF to arrive. You went above and beyond." Kowalski closed his notebook. "Ms. Shaw, I'm going to be straight with you. This looks clean, self-defense clear as day, but the Iron Vultures don't forget. You just made powerful enemies. They made themselves my enemies when they tried extortion and assault." "Fair, but fair doesn't stop a bullet." He glanced at the bikers being loaded into vehicles. "You carrying no weapon in the vehicle?" "I prefer not to." "Might want to reconsider, just saying." Riley looked past him to where Mason was being secured in an ambulance. Even injured, even defeated, his eyes promised retribution. "I'll keep that in mind," she said. Kowalski handed her a card. "You'll need to come to the station tomorrow. Full statement, sign some papers. But for tonight, you're free to go. We have your contact information." "Thank you, Detective." He started to walk away, then turned back. "Ms. Shaw, that move you used on Dane, the throw, where'd you learn that? Which part? The entry, the off-balancing, or the finish?" He smiled for real this time. "All of it." "Quantico. Advanced combatives. They teach you to turn aggression into momentum, momentum into leverage. Riley's eyes went distant for a moment. Then you practice it until it's muscle memory, until you don't think, you just act. Effective. It keeps you alive. Kowalski nodded and walked away. Reeves approached, keys in hand. You're clear to go. But Ms. Shaw, be careful. These guys have friends, and friends have long memories. So do I, Deputy. Riley exited the patrol car and walked across the parking lot to her truck. The crime scene techs were finishing up evidence bags being loaded, photos being taken. Jay was giving his statement to a uniformed officer, his hands still shaking slightly, but his voice steady. Good kid. Brave kid. Earl caught her eye from the diner steps and nodded. A warrior's acknowledgement. She nodded back. Riley climbed into her cab, settled into the driver's seat, and sat for a moment in the familiar space. Her hands found the steering wheel, the worn leather conforming to her grip like an old friend. She should leave. Should fire up the engine and put miles between herself and this place. But something made her pause. Riley pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. Found a number she hadn't called in 6 months. Federal Task Force Organized Crime Division. Her old CO's new posting. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Mason's phone. When he'd been on the ground before the deputies secured him, his phone had buzzed. She'd seen the screen for just a second. A text message. 2 words. Move C-17. Tonight. C-17. Military designation for a cargo plane. What the hell were the Iron Vultures doing with military equipment codes? Riley hit dial. The phone rang twice, then SAC Chen. Sir, it's Riley Shaw. A pause. Shaw, Jesus, been a while. You still trucking? Yes, sir, but I just had an incident. Iron Vultures. 4 of them tried extortion, ended in assault. All of them in custody, but... She hesitated. Sir, one of them had a text. Move C-17 tonight. Does that mean anything to you? Another pause, longer this time. When Chen spoke again, his voice had shifted to operational mode. Where are you? Highline fuel stop. Big Sky, Montana. Stay there. Don't move. I'm making calls. Sir, what's going on? Can't say over unsecure line. But Shaw, that text you saw, that's not biker business. That's something bigger, much bigger. The line went dead. Riley sat in her truck engine off, watching the police lights paint the parking lot in alternating colors. Red, blue, red, blue. The rhythm of emergency of situations spiraling beyond control. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Hello? Silence on the other end. Not dead air, she could hear breathing. Someone was there listening. Then a voice distorted mechanical, iron birds migrating. Her blood went cold. That phrase, she knew that phrase. It was old code. Her old code, from her unit. A warning system they'd developed for when operations went sideways and communications were compromised. Who is this? Riley demanded. Someone who knows you're in over your head. Someone who knows what C-17 really means. The distorted voice paused. Walk away, Shaw. This isn't your fight. How do you know my... They're watching, right now. White SUV northwest corner of the lot. They've been filming you for the last 10 minutes. Riley's eyes snapped to the rearview mirror. They're barely visible in the shadows beyond the police lights, a white SUV. Tinted windows. Engine running. As she watched the SUV's lights flicked on, it reversed smoothly, turned, and glided out of the lot without hurry. Professional. Controlled. Who are you? Riley asked again. Someone who was there. Someone who remembers Kandahar. Someone who owes you. The voice softened slightly, losing some of its mechanical edge. "They'll come for you, Shaw. Tonight. Tomorrow. Soon. The vultures are just foot soldiers. There's something bigger here. Something that won't tolerate witnesses." "Then you'll but fight you already did. And now you're marked." A bitter laugh. "You kicked the hornet's nest, hero. Now come the hornets." The line went dead. Riley sat in the sudden silence, her mind racing. Kandahar. Someone from her unit. Someone who'd served with her, but the voice was disguised untraceable. And they'd known the old codes. Her phone buzzed again. Different number. Local. "Shaw." "Ms. Shaw, this is Sheriff Briggs. Deputy Reeves briefed me. I understand you had quite an evening." "You could say that, sir." "I need you to come to the station, now. We have some developments." "What kind of developments? The kind that don't discuss over the phone. How soon can you be here?" Riley looked at the diner, at the crime scene tape, at the spot where she'd thrown Mason into the windshield. 20 minutes. "Make it 15. The sheriff hung up. Riley started her engine. The Peterbilt rumbled to life, familiar and powerful. She pulled out of the lot, careful to avoid the evidence markers, and headed toward town. In her rearview mirror, the Highline fuel stop receded into the distance. Earl was locking up, Jay was climbing into his beat-up Honda, and the police were finishing their work. A normal scene. Almost peaceful. But Riley's hands were tight on the wheel, and her eyes kept checking the mirrors. White SUV, filming her. Someone from Kandahar. Military codes. C-17. This wasn't over. The mysterious caller was right. She'd kicked the hornet's nest. And somewhere in the darkness of the Montana night, the hornets were gathering. Riley's phone sat in the cup holder screen, dark, holding secrets she didn't yet understand. The road stretched ahead, lit by her headlights, leading toward answers she wasn't sure she wanted. But Riley Shaw had never been good at walking away from a fight. And something told her this fight had only just begun. The sheriff's station sat on the edge of town like a sentinel made of brick and fluorescent lighting, its American flag snapping in the wind that had turned vicious. Riley parked her rig in the visitor lot, killed the engine, and sat for a moment listening to the tick of cooling metal and the whistle of air through the cab's weather stripping. Her phone showed 3 missed calls, all from numbers she didn't recognize. She ignored them. The station's interior smelled of burnt coffee, old paperwork, and the particular brand of institutional cleaner that seemed universal to law enforcement facilities. Deputy Reeves was at the front desk filling out forms with the mechanical precision of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. "Sheriff's waiting," Reeves said without looking up. "Conference room's second door on the left." Riley nodded and moved down the hallway. Through the wire-reinforced glass of holding cells, she caught a glimpse of Mason Dane, his face a roadmap of bruises and bandages, glaring at nothing with the focused hatred of a man whose worldview had just been violently recalibrated. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. His lips moved, forming words she couldn't hear, but could easily interpret. She kept walking. Sheriff Tom Briggs was 62, built like a fire hydrant, with a face that suggested he'd spent most of his career mediating disputes between people who should have known better. He stood as Riley entered, extending a hand that swallowed hers, in a grip that was firm but not challenging. "Ms. Shaw, thank you for coming so quickly." "You made it sound urgent, Sheriff." "It is." He gestured to a chair. "Coffee? It's terrible, but it's hot." "I'm good." Briggs settled into his own seat with the careful movement of someone nursing a bad back. He opened a folder, scanned the contents, then closed it again, and looked at Riley directly. "Your service record is impressive. Silver Star. That's not just impressive, that's exceptional." "It was a long time ago, Sheriff." "Not that long. And from what I saw in the parking lot footage, you haven't lost a step. He tapped the folder. But that's not why I called you in. We ran the bikers' IDs like you suggested. All 4 have outstanding warrants, but Mason Dane's phone, that's where it gets interesting. Riley waited. We got a warrant pulled his messages. That text you mentioned, move C-17, tonight. It came from a burner, but our tech traced the general area. Came from somewhere near the rail yard about 15 miles south of here. Briggs leaned forward. Ms. Shaw C-17 isn't just military code. In certain circles, it's also a reference to a shipping container designation. Container 17. And according to manifests, we're now looking at Container 17 was supposed to move through that rail yard tonight. The pieces started clicking together in Riley's mind, like tumblers in a lock. What's in the container? We don't know. The manifest lists it as industrial equipment, but the shipper is a shell company. 3 layers deep, registered in Delaware, operated out of a P.O. box. Briggs pulled out a photograph and slid it across the table. Recognize this. It was a grainy image, clearly from a surveillance camera. A warehouse, roll-up doors, and 3 men loading crates onto a flatbed truck. One of the men was Mason Dane. Another was Spiderweb. The third was someone Riley didn't recognize, older, professional-looking, not fitting the biker profile at all. When was this taken? 3 days ago, at a warehouse owned by that same shell company. Briggs produced another photo. And this is from 2 weeks before that. This image showed the same warehouse, but different people. A woman in business attire speaking with 2 men in contractor vests. In the background, barely visible, was a glimpse of what looked like military-grade crates. Sheriff, what exactly are we looking at here? That's what I was hoping you could tell me. Briggs folded his hands. Because 10 minutes after your friend S.A.C. Chen got my contact info and called me, I got another call from Homeland Security. Seems the Iron Vultures aren't just a motorcycle club anymore. They're contractors, security contractors specifically, and that container, it's not just moving tonight. It's already gone. Riley's pulse quickened, but her face remained impassive. Gone where? That's the question. Briggs stood and walked to a map pinned to the wall. Red circles marked various locations. The rail yard here, a private airstrip here, a contractor facility here, all connected to the same shell company, all with Iron Vultures providing security. Someone's using them as muscle. More than that, someone's using them as cover. Biker gang moves illegal goods. That's expected. That's a pattern law enforcement understands. But what if the bikers are just the visible layer? What if there's something else underneath? Before Riley could respond, the door opened. Deputy Reeves stepped in, her expression tight. Sheriff, you need to see this. Now! They followed her to a computer terminal where body camera footage was queued up. Reeves hit play. The footage was from the parking lot incident, but from a different angle, one of the responding officer's cameras. It showed the fight, showed Riley's precise takedowns, showed Mason hitting the windshield. But then it continued panning across the parking lot. And there in the corner of the frame, just for a moment, was the white SUV. The camera zoomed slightly, the officer had noticed it too, and captured a partial plate number. We ran the partial, Reeves said. Came back to a rental company in Billings, rented 2 days ago to a corporation called Meridian Consulting. Briggs cursed under his breath. Pull everything you can on Meridian. Already did. Reeves pulled up another screen. That's the problem. Meridian Consulting doesn't exist. The corporate registration is fake. The credit card used to rent the SUV cloned. Whoever rented that vehicle went through significant effort to stay invisible. Riley stared at the frozen image of the SUV. Professional surveillance, fake identities, military-grade operational security. This wasn't biker gang territory anymore. This was something else entirely. "Sheriff," Riley said slowly, "I think someone's been following me. Not just tonight. Before." "What makes you say that?" She pulled out her phone and played the recorded call, the distorted voice, the warning, the reference to Kandahar. When it finished, the room was silent, except for the hum of computers. Briggs looked at her with new concern. "Someone from your unit?" "Maybe. The codes are right. The knowledge is right. But why hide? Why the voice modulation?" Riley shook her head. "Unless they're compromised. Unless they're part of whatever this is and trying to warn me without exposing themselves." Reeves leaned against the desk. "Or they're trying to scare you off, make you think you're in deeper than you are. Either way, someone knows a hell of a lot about me, about my past, about my codes." Riley looked at Briggs. "Sheriff, I need to ask, are you sure this station is secure?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Briggs's expression hardened. "You think we have a leak?" "I think if someone can fake corporate registrations and clone credit cards, they can probably tap phones or compromise networks." Riley stood. "That call I got, it came within minutes of Mason being arrested. Someone knew exactly when and where to reach me. That's not luck. That's intelligence." But Briggs and Reeves exchanged glances. The sheriff moved to the door and closed it, then pulled the blinds on the conference room windows. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's assume you're right. Let's assume someone's listening. What do we do?" Riley's mind raced through scenarios, through training, through every counter-surveillance technique she'd learned in 12 years of military service. "We need to verify who we can trust. Your deputies, how many? 6, including Reeves. How long have they been with you? Youngest is 3 years, oldest is 15. Any financial problems, gambling debts, family issues that might make them vulnerable?" Briggs looked offended, then thoughtful. "Dave Kohlmeyer's going through a divorce. Messy one. And Sarah Chen, no relation to your SAC, had some medical bills last year. Her kid needed surgery." "Those are pressure points," Riley said. "Not accusations, just vulnerabilities that someone sophisticated could exploit. We need to keep the circle small. Just us 3 for now." Reeves pulled out her personal phone. "I can reach out to some contacts. Off the record. People I trust from my academy days." "Do it, but use a burner, not your personal cell." Riley turned to Briggs. "Sheriff, I need access to Mason Dane. I need to talk to him. Alone." "That's not protocol." "Protocol is what got us here. Someone's running an operation through your county using bikers as cover, and they're sophisticated enough to track federal investigations and intercept communications." Riley's voice was calm, but insistent. "Mason knows something. Maybe not everything, but something. And right now he's scared. Injured. Isolated. That's when people talk." Briggs considered, then shook his head. "I can't authorize that. If his lawyer finds out, has he asked for a lawyer?" "Not yet, but then I have a window, 5 minutes. That's all I need." The sheriff looked at Reeves, who shrugged. "Stranger things have happened. Camera malfunctions, technical difficulties." Briggs rubbed his face, aging 10 years in 10 seconds. 5 minutes, and Shaw nothing physical. Nothing that looks like coercion. We need this clean. "I know how to conduct an interview, Sheriff." 2 minutes later, Riley was being escorted to the holding cells. Mason Dane sat on a concrete bench, his head in his hands, looking nothing like the threatening presence from the diner. He looked up as the cell door opened, and his eyes widened. "You!" he spat. "Come to gloat." Riley stepped inside. The door closed behind her with a metallic clang. She remained standing, hands visible posture, non-threatening. "I came to help you." Mason laughed bitterly. "Help me. You put me here." "No. You put yourself here when you decided extortion was a viable business model. Riley moved closer but stayed out of arm's reach. But Mason, you're smart enough to know you're just a piece on the board. Someone else is playing the game. His jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. C-17, the container, the rail yard. Riley watched his face carefully. You're not the top of this chain. You're the bottom, the expendable part. And right now, whoever's running this operation is trying to figure out what you know and whether you're a liability. I want a lawyer. That's your right. But lawyers take time. And time is something you might not have. Riley crouched down eye level with him. Those men you work for, the ones who aren't bikers, the professionals, do you really think they're going to let you sit in this cell and potentially talk? Do you think they'll risk it? Mason's hands were trembling slightly, not from injury, from fear. They said it was easy money. Just provide security, watch some shipments, make sure nobody asked questions. Who said? He shook his head. I don't know names. We never got names. Just phone calls, text messages, cash payments. The man in the warehouse, the one in the photograph. You know him? Mason's eyes flickered. Confirmation. Called himself Victor. Russian, maybe? Or Eastern European? Military bearing, you know. Like you. Like me. Yeah. The way he moved, the way he assessed rooms. You can always tell when someone's had training. Mason looked at her directly. That's why I should have known better with you. Should have seen it. But I was so focused on the score, on proving myself to the club, that I didn't think. What was the score? The container. We move it from the rail yard to the airstrip, we get 50 grand. Split 5 ways. 10 grand each for one night's work. He laughed bitterly. Seemed too good to be true. Should have known it was. Riley's mind was calculating. 50,000 for one transport. That kind of money meant the cargo was worth exponentially more. Or it was dangerous enough that premium rates were justified. What's in the container, Mason? I don't know. We were told not to open it, not to ask, just move it. But you looked. He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I looked. When Victor wasn't around, used a crowbar on one of the crates. And weapons. But not like street guns. Military stuff. Heavy ordnance. Maybe explosives, I'm not sure. The markings were in a foreign language. Cyrillic, maybe. Riley's blood went cold. Foreign military weapons moving through Montana, coordinated by professionals using bikers as disposable labor. This wasn't smuggling. This was something worse. Mason, listen to me. You need to tell the sheriff everything, every detail. Because if that container reaches its destination, people will die. Maybe a lot of people. And if I talk, I die. Mason's voice was flat. You don't understand how this works. I talk, I'm a dead man. If not in here, then eventually. They have reach, they have patience. Then you're already dead. Riley stood. The only question is whether you take innocent people with you. She turned toward the door, then paused. There's a third option. Witness protection. Federal custody. New identity. But that only works if you cooperate. If you give them enough to take down the whole network. And you can guarantee I'll be safe. No. But I can guarantee that if you don't talk, more people end up like you, used, disposable, and abandoned when the operation goes south. Riley knocked on the door. Your choice, Mason. But make it fast. Because I guarantee you right now someone's making the choice for you. The door opened. Riley stepped out. Behind her, Mason called out, Wait. She turned. Victor mentioned a name once, on the phone. He didn't know I was close enough to hear. Mason swallowed hard. He said Wilson wants confirmation. That mean anything to you? Riley's world tilted. Wilson. Charles Wilson, the arms dealer she'd nearly died trying to capture in Kandahar. The ghost who'd vanished into the intelligence community's most wanted files. The man who'd shot her twice and left her bleeding in the sand while her unit was pinned down. He was here, in Montana, running weapons. She forced her face to remain neutral. "I'll make sure the sheriff knows. Thank you, Mason." As the cell door closed, Riley's mind was already racing ahead. Wilson wasn't just a name. He was a network, an operator who'd survived decades in the shadow world by being smarter, more ruthless, and more connected than anyone else. And if he was involved, this wasn't just smuggling. This was an operation. Briggs was waiting in the hallway. "Well, he'll talk, but we need federal protection. Full witness security." Riley kept walking, forcing the sheriff to follow. "And we need to move fast. There's someone involved, someone from my past. Charles Wilson. He's an international arms dealer suspected of supplying weapons to terrorist organizations, insurgent groups, and anyone with enough money." The sheriff's face paled. "Jesus Christ. Are you sure?" Mason heard the name. And it fits. Wilson's methodology, his operational security, the use of disposable assets. Riley stopped at the conference room door. "Sheriff, we're not dealing with a biker gang anymore. We're dealing with a professional arms trafficking network. And that container, it's probably already at the airstrip being loaded onto a plane for delivery." Reeves appeared from the dispatch area, moving quickly. "Sheriff, we have a problem. The rail yard just called. Fire in one of the warehouses, the one connected to the shell company." "Coincidence?" Briggs asked. "Not likely," Riley said. "They're destroying evidence, covering tracks. That fire will erase any connection between the warehouse and the container. So we've got nothing. We've got Mason's testimony. We've got the body camera footage of the SUV, and we've got the airstrip." Riley pulled out her phone and opened a maps application. "Sheriff, where exactly is this airstrip?" Briggs leaned over and pointed. "Here, old crop duster operation. Went defunct about 5 years ago. Private owner doesn't maintain it much. Perfect for off-the-books operations." "How far?" 30 miles, maybe 40 minutes in good conditions." Riley checked the time. Nearly midnight. If they moved the container immediately after Mason's arrest, they'd be loading it now. Maybe already loaded. "You want to go out there?" Reeves looked skeptical. "That's a tactical situation. We'd need backup a plan, probably state resources. By the time we coordinate all that, the plane's gone and the trail's cold." Riley looked at Briggs. "Sheriff, I need a vehicle. Something unmarked. And I need it now." "What you need is to let law enforcement handle this." "I am law enforcement. Was anyway. And I know Wilson. Know how he thinks, how he operates. You send a convoy of patrol cars out there, he'll scatter. You'll find an empty airstrip and more burning evidence." Briggs looked torn. Professional protocol warring with practical necessity. "I'll go with her," Reeves offered. "Plain clothes, reconnaissance only. We see something, we call it in. We don't engage." "You'll do more than see something," Riley said. "You'll document everything. Photographs, video, license plates. Build a case. But yeah, no engagement. Not unless there's no other option." The sheriff made a decision, the kind that could cost him his career. "Take my personal truck. It's parked out back. Keys are in my desk drawer." He grabbed Riley's arm as she moved past. "Shaw, I mean it. Reconnaissance only. You engage, you're on your own legally. I can't protect you." "Understood." 5 minutes later, Riley and Reeves were in Briggs's F-150, rolling out of the station parking lot. The night had turned savage wind, pushing 40 miles per hour, the first spits of rain beginning to fall. Perfect cover for an illegal arms shipment. Reeves drove, while Riley studied satellite imagery on her phone. The airstrip was isolated, surrounded by open rangeland with a single access road and minimal cover. "This is a terrible tactical position," Riley muttered. "One way in, one way out, If they have security, then we abort, Reeves said firmly. I've got a career and a pension. I'm not throwing it away on a cowboy operation. Fair enough. Riley zoomed in on the imagery. There, that ridgeline. We can approach from there, stay below the sight line, observe without being seen. Assuming they don't have thermal imaging. If they have thermal imaging, we're already compromised. Riley looked at Reeves. But somehow I don't think Wilson's using premium tech for a routine shipment. He's smart. He keeps operations lean, uses minimal resources, maximizes deniability. You really know this guy. Spent 6 months hunting him. Got close once. Almost had him. Riley's hand unconsciously went to her side, where the scars from his bullets still ached in cold weather. He's good. Maybe the best I've ever seen. But he's also arrogant. Thinks he's untouchable. They drove in silence for a while, the truck's headlights cutting through darkness and increasing rain. The highway gave way to county roads, then to gravel, then to dirt barely wide enough for 2 vehicles. There, Riley pointed. Kill the lights. Reeves shut off the headlights and slowed to a crawl, navigating by ambient moonlight. They crested a rise, and below them, maybe half a mile distant, the airstrip appeared. And it was active. Floodlights illuminated the tarmac. A twin-engine cargo plane sat with its rear ramp down. Figures moved around it, loading something from a semi-trailer. In the distance, several vehicles were parked in a defensive perimeter SUVs, trucks all with their lights off, but engines running. Riley pulled out her phone and started recording video, zooming as much as the camera would allow. "Count?" she whispered. Reeves scanned the scene. 8, no 10 people, maybe more in the vehicles. All armed, I can see rifles. Professional security, Riley confirmed. See how they're positioned overlapping fields of fire, prepared for threats from multiple directions. That's not biker security. That's contractor-level work. As they watched, a figure emerged from the plane and walked down the ramp. Even at this distance, even in the harsh artificial light, Riley recognized the bearing, the walk, the way he gestured with absolute authority. Her heart rate spiked. "That's him," she breathed. "That's Wilson." Reeves grabbed her arm. "Don't even think about it. We observe, we document, that's it." But Riley wasn't thinking about engaging. She was thinking about the last time she'd seen Charles Wilson standing over her in the Afghan desert, a pistol in his hand, her blood pooling in the sand. "You should be dead," he'd said then. "But I'm feeling generous today. Tell your people I'm untouchable. Tell them to stop trying." Then he'd walked away, leaving her to die. If not for her unit, for her training, for pure, stubborn refusal to quit, she would have. Now, he was here. Within reach. "Riley," Reeves hissed. "I know that look. Whatever you're thinking, don't." Riley lowered the phone, her jaw set. "I'm thinking we need more evidence. Close-up photographs. Positive identification." "We have identification. You just ID'd him." "My word alone won't convict him. We need clear imagery, facial recognition quality." Riley pointed to a cluster of rocks about 200 yards closer to the airstrip. "From there I can get it." "That's too exposed." "It's the only angle that works." Riley was already moving, opening the truck door quietly. "Stay here. Keep the engine ready. If this goes wrong, you leave without me. Understood?" "Like hell." "That's an order, Deputy. You have a career, a family. I'm a civilian with nothing to lose." Riley's eyes met hers in the darkness. "Please, let me do this." Reeves looked like she wanted to argue, but something in Riley's expression stopped her. 5 minutes. Then I'm coming after you." "Deal." Riley slipped out of the truck and into the night. The terrain was rough, loose rock, low scrub patches of mud from the rain. She moved in a low crouch, using every depression, every shadow. Old skills muscle memory from a dozen combat zones. The wind was her ally, covering the sound of her movement. The rain intensifying now blurred sight lines and reduced visibility. She made it to the rocks and settled into a prone position, phone out camera recording. From here, she could see everything. The container being loaded onto the plane bore markings Cyrillic script, just like Mason had described. The workers moved with practiced efficiency, strapping down cargo, securing it for flight. And Wilson moved among them, supervising, occasionally speaking into a radio. Riley zoomed her camera, focusing on his face. Clear shots. Perfect for identification. Then Wilson stopped. He looked directly at her position. Riley froze, every muscle locked. Had he seen her? Impossible. She was in shadow downwind with rain and distance providing cover. But Wilson pulled out his own phone, spoke into it, then gestured. Two of the security contractors broke off and started moving toward the ridge. Toward her. Riley's mind raced. Thermal imaging motion sensors. Had they been more prepared than she'd thought? She had maybe 30 seconds before they were in visual range. She couldn't run, they'd see the movement. Couldn't stay, they'd find her. Her hand went to her pocket, feeling the small ceramic blade she always carried. Not enough against rifles. Not even close. Then her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. North side, drainage culvert. Go now. The mysterious caller. The one who knew the old codes. Riley made a split-second decision. She low-crawled north, moving as fast as she could while staying low. 20 feet. 30. Her knee hit something metal, the culvert half buried in mud and scrub. She dropped into it just as flashlight beams swept over her previous position. The culvert was cramped maybe 3 feet in diameter, filled with a foot of freezing water. Riley wormed her way through it, moving on her elbows and knees, her phone clutched in one hand. Behind her voices, anything, negative, maybe a coyote. Check it anyway. Wilson wants this tight. Riley kept moving. The culvert seemed to go on forever, but finally she saw light the far end. She emerged into a shallow wash sheltered from the airstrip by a rise in terrain. And there, waiting beside a motorcycle with its lights off, was a figure in dark clothing and a helmet. Riley approached cautiously, one hand on her blade. The figure held up a hand. Peace. Then slowly removed the helmet. Jay, the teenage busboy from the diner. Riley's mind couldn't process it. What the hell are you? No time, Jay said, his voice completely different from earlier, older, harder professional. They're sweeping the perimeter. Get on. I don't even... Now, Shaw, unless you want to explain to Wilson why you're here. Riley made another split-second decision. She climbed onto the bike behind Jay. He kicked it to life. The engine remarkably quiet, probably modified, and they shot away from the airstrip, navigating the terrain with the confidence of someone who knew every rock and rut. They rode for maybe 10 minutes before Jay pulled off into a stand of trees and killed the engine. Riley dismounted, every nerve on edge. Start talking, right now. Who are you? Jay pulled off his jacket. Underneath, he wore tactical gear, and on his vest was a patch DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. My real name is Jason Keller. I'm a field operative with DIA. I've been embedded with the Highline operation for 3 months, working my way into Wilson's peripheral networks. He looked at her seriously. And you, Riley Shaw, just compromised my cover and potentially ended a multi-agency investigation. Riley felt like she'd been punched. I had no idea. Of course you didn't. That's the point of deep cover. Jason ran a hand through his hair. But now Wilson knows someone was observing. He'll increase security, maybe move up his timeline. We might lose him. Then why save me? Why not let them find me? Because you're too valuable to waste. Jason pulled out his own phone, showing her a file with her photograph. SAC Chen contacted our agency after your call, told us you'd stumbled into our operation. We were trying to figure out how to extract you quietly when you decided to go cowboy on us. Riley's anger flared. If you'd told me, we couldn't. You're a civilian. You have no clearance, and frankly, you were supposed to just drive away. Jason's expression softened slightly. But then you didn't. Because you never do you? You see a fight, you engage. It's in your file. It's in your psych evals. It's who you are. What do you want from me? Right now, to keep you alive and keep our operation intact. Jason checked his phone. My handler knows I extracted you. They're deciding now whether to pull me out or keep me in play. Those codes you used. Iron birds migrating. That's from Kandahar. How do you know? I don't. My handler does. Someone in the intelligence community who served with you. They recognized your name when it came up in reports. Gave me the codes to use if I needed to contact you securely. Riley processed this. Someone from her unit was in intelligence now. Someone who remembered. Someone who was trying to protect her. The container, Riley said. Where's it going? Jason hesitated, then seemed to decide she'd earned some truth. We don't know final destination, but we know it's not staying domestic. Wilson's moving it overseas. We think to Syria, but we're not certain. What's in it? Man-portable air defense systems, man-pads, enough to shoot down commercial aircraft or military helicopters. In the wrong hands, they're catastrophic. Jason's face was grim. That's why we've been trying to track the network. Not just stop one shipment, but dismantle the entire supply chain. And I just screwed that up. Maybe. Or maybe... Jason looked thoughtful. Maybe we can use this. Wilson knows someone was watching. He doesn't know who. He'll be paranoid, make mistakes. And you're a known factor now. He might try to eliminate you. And you want to use me as bait. I want to use you as an asset. There's a difference. Jason handed her a small device looked like a car key fob. GPS tracker. Emergency beacon. You carry this, we can find you anywhere. And if Wilson makes a move against you, we'll be ready. Riley looked at the device, then at Jason. I have conditions. You're not in a position to negotiate. The hell I'm not. You need me cooperative. So here's the deal, I help you, but you keep the locals safe. Earl Deputy Reeves, Sheriff Briggs, they're out of the line of fire. Whatever happens, they don't become collateral damage. Jason considered. Agreed. What else? When this is over, when Wilson's taken down, I want in. Not as a civilian. As an operator. Because I have unfinished business with that bastard, and I've earned the right to see it through. That's above my pay grade. Then get someone on the phone who has the authority. Riley's voice was steel. Because otherwise, I walk. I disappear. And your operation loses its only leverage. Jason pulled out a sat phone, dialed, and handed it to her. Explain it to my boss. The voice that answered was female authoritative and familiar. This is Deputy Director Sarah Chen. Riley's breath caught. Sarah Chen, her old squad mate, the one who'd carried her 3 miles through hostile territory after Wilson shot her. Sarah. A pause. Hello, Riley. Been a long time. You're the handler. You're the one who gave Jason the codes. I am. And before you ask, yes, I've been tracking your career, watching from a distance, making sure you were okay. Sarah's voice softened. You saved my life in Kandahar, Riley. I don't forget debts. Then help me end this. Let me be part of taking Wilson down. Riley, you're a civilian. I'm a trained MP with combat experience and a personal stake in this operation. I'm also the only person Wilson has seen and failed to kill. That makes me useful. Riley's grip tightened on the phone. "Please, Sarah, let me finish what we started." The silence stretched. Then, "All right, but you follow orders. Jason's orders, my orders. You don't go rogue, don't play hero. This is a sanctioned operation with rules of engagement. Break them and I can't protect you. Understood?" "Understood." "Good. Put Jason back on." Riley handed over the phone. Jason listened, responded with brief affirmatives, then hung up. "Welcome to the team," he said. "Temporarily and unofficially. If this goes south, you were never here." "Story of my life." Riley looked toward where the airstrip lay, hidden by darkness and terrain. "So what's the play?" "Wilson will move the shipment at dawn. He can't wait longer. The window for safe transit is closing. We let it go, track it, follow the network to its endpoint." Jason started the motorcycle. "But first we get you back to your truck. Deputy Reeves is probably having a coronary." They rode back in silence. Riley's mind churned through the evening's revelations. Jay was DIA. Sarah was his handler. Wilson was here, touchable. And she was back in the game. When they reached the ridge where Briggs's truck sat, Reeves nearly shot them both before recognizing Riley. "Jesus Christ, Shaw, I was about to call in the cavalry. Stand down, deputy. It's handled." Riley turned to Jason. "She's clear. She needs to know." Jason gave Reeves the abbreviated version. The deputy's face cycled through disbelief, anger, and finally resignation. "So all this, the embedded operative, the federal investigation, none of you thought to tell local law enforcement, need to know," Jason said simply. "And you didn't need to know, until now." Reeves looked at Riley. "And you're working with them, temporarily, to end this?" Riley met her eyes. "But the sheriff can't know. Not yet. The fewer people in the loop, the safer everyone is. He's not going to like this. He doesn't have to like it. He just has to trust me." Riley climbed into the truck. "Come on. We need to get back before he sends a search party." They drove back in tense silence. As they approached the station, Riley's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message. She opened it. A photograph. Her in the parking lot at the diner. Crosshairs superimposed over her face. Below it, text, "You should have stayed in your truck, soldier. Now you're in the game. And the game doesn't end until someone dies." Riley showed it to Reeves, whose face went pale. "That's a death threat." "That's a promise." Riley saved the image, forwarded it to Jason. "And it means Wilson knows exactly who I am. Then we need protection. Safe house security detail. No. That's what he wants. He wants me scared, hiding out of play." Riley's jaw set. "Instead, we're going to give him exactly what he doesn't expect." "Which is—" Riley smiled, cold and predatory. "Me, front and center, visible, challenging him." She looked at Reeves. "Because Charles Wilson's greatest weakness is his arrogance. He thinks he's untouchable. I'm going to prove him wrong." As they pulled into the station, Riley saw Sheriff Briggs waiting by the door, arms crossed, looking like a father whose teenager had missed curfew. This was going to be a long night. But somewhere out there on a darkened airstrip, Charles Wilson was making plans, and Riley Shaw was going to make sure they failed. The game was on. And this time, she wasn't walking away. Sheriff Briggs didn't speak until they were inside his office with the door closed and the blinds drawn. Then he erupted. "You want to explain to me what the hell just happened out there? I get a call from State Dispatch saying there's suspicious activity at the old airstrip floodlights visible from the highway, and my truck is parked on the ridge overlooking it." His face was crimson, a vein pulsing at his temple. "I sent you for reconnaissance, not, we were compromised." Riley interrupted, her voice steady, despite the adrenaline still coursing through her system. They had better security than anticipated. Thermal imaging, probably motion sensors. We had to abort. Abort? You had to run for your lives, is what I'm hearing. Briggs slammed his hand on the desk. This is exactly why civilians don't run tactical operations. Reeves stepped forward. Sheriff, with respect, she's not exactly civilian. And what we saw out there, that's a military-grade operation. Armed security cargo plane the works. This is way beyond local jurisdiction. Which is why we should have called in the feds immediately instead of playing commando. Briggs turned to Riley. You could have been killed. Reeves could have been killed, and for what? Some photographs. Riley pulled out her phone and connected it to Briggs's computer. The images loaded on screen clear shots of Wilson, the container with Cyrillic markings, armed contractors, the plane's tail number. Briggs's anger faltered as he studied the evidence. Jesus, this is real. It's very real, Riley said. And it's happening right now in your county. Those aren't just weapons in that container, Sheriff. They're man-pads, surface-to-air missiles, enough firepower to take down passenger jets. The color drained from Briggs's face. How do you know that? Riley and Reeves exchanged glances. The moment of truth. Briggs was smart, observant, and right now he knew something was being held back. Because I've seen this pattern before, Riley said carefully. The operational security, the use of disposable assets, the type of cargo. This is Charles Wilson's methodology. He specializes in high-value weapons trafficking. And you know this how? Because I've hunted him before. In Afghanistan. He's the one who... Riley's hand moved unconsciously to her side. He's the one who shot me. Twice. Left me to die in the desert. Briggs sat down heavily. So, this is personal. This is justice, Riley corrected. Personal would be me putting a bullet in him the moment I saw him. Instead, I took photographs, gathered evidence, did it by the book. The sheriff studied her for a long moment. There's something else. Something you're not telling me. Riley's poker face held, but Briggs was better at reading people than she'd given him credit for. The busboy, Briggs said slowly. Jay, he left right after you did. And I just got a report from Highway Patrol motorcycle matching his bike's description, spotted near the airstrip around the same time you were there. His eyes narrowed. He's not a busboy, is he? Reeves started to speak, but Riley raised a hand. Briggs deserved the truth, or at least a version of it. He's federal, Riley said. DIA, deep cover. Has been for months, apparently. He pulled me out when Wilson's security got too close. DIA. Briggs's jaw worked. In my county, operating without my knowledge, using my citizens as cover. It's need to know, Sheriff. And you didn't need to know, not until now. And now I do because you've blown everything wide open. Briggs stood and paced. Do you understand what you've done? If Wilson suspects federal involvement, he'll vanish. We'll never get another chance at him. Or, Riley said, he'll make a mistake. He knows someone was watching, but he doesn't know who or what they saw. That uncertainty will make him paranoid. Paranoid people rush, make errors. That's a hell of a gamble. It's the only play we have. Riley forwarded the death threat photo to Briggs's computer. He sent me this 20 minutes ago. He knows who I am. He's making this personal. Briggs looked at the image, Riley in crosshairs, and his expression hardened. He's threatening a civilian in my jurisdiction. I'm the threat to him, Riley said. I'm the one who got away, the one who survived, and now I'm here in his operational area gathering evidence. From his perspective, I'm a liability that needs elimination. So we put you in protective custody. No. Riley's voice was firm. We use it. We make me visible. Give him a target he can't resist. Absolutely not, Briggs said. I'm not dangling you as bait for a professional killer. You're not. I am. Riley pulled up a map on the computer. Look, the Broken Spoke Bar 15 miles south. According to Mason's interrogation, it's a recruitment spot, where Wilson's people meet potential contractors. I go there, make myself seen, and when Wilson's people come for me, they kill you, Briggs finished. They try, Riley corrected, but we'll be ready. Surveillance backup positioned outside body wire for evidence. We catch them in the act, tie them directly to Wilson, and build an airtight conspiracy case. Reeves was shaking her head. That's insane. Too many variables. Too much risk. Risk is part of the job, Riley said. Or it used to be for me. And right now I'm the only leverage we have. Wilson wants me dead. Let's use that. Briggs rubbed his face, the weight of command evident in every line. I need to make calls. Federal task force, maybe state police tactical. No, Riley interrupted. The moment you bring in that many people, word spreads. And Wilson has proven he has intelligence sources. Maybe someone in law enforcement on his payroll, maybe just good surveillance. Either way, he'll know. Then what do you suggest? Small team. People we absolutely trust. Jason J. will coordinate with his handlers. Reeves provides local support. You maintain plausible deniability. Riley met his eyes. And I go in alone. Not happening, Reeves said flatly. You go in wired with backup in range, or you don't go at all. Riley nodded. Fair enough. But it has to look real. I'm a trucker recently involved in a violent incident, probably shaken up. Looking for information, maybe looking to make some money on the side. That's the cover. Briggs was silent for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and dialed. Chen Briggs, I need federal authorization for a CI operation. Yes, I'm aware of the risks. The asset is former MP combat experienced. Shaw. Riley Shaw. He listened, his expression unreadable, then handed the phone to Riley. She wants to talk to you. Riley took it. Sarah. This is a monumentally stupid idea. Sarah Chen's voice was tight with controlled anger. Using yourself as bait when Wilson has already marked you for death. It's the only way to draw him out. It's a way to get yourself killed. There are other approaches that take time we don't have. The container's moving at dawn. Once it's airborne, we lose the trail. We lose Wilson. We lose everything. Riley's grip tightened on the phone. Sarah, you know me. You know I don't do this lightly. But this is our shot. Maybe our only one. Sarah was quiet. Then, you remember Kandahar, when we were pinned down, and I wanted to wait for air support? You said patience keeps you alive. And you said hesitation gets you killed. Then you charged that position alone and saved all of us. Sarah's voice softened slightly. I've spent 12 years wondering if I should have followed you or stopped you. Still don't know the answer. The answer is we both survived. We both did what we had to do. All right, you're authorized. But Riley Jason goes in with you. Not as backup as your contact. Someone making introductions. It's more believable that way. Agreed. And Riley, don't die. I've already written one eulogy for you. Don't make me use it. The line went dead. Riley handed the phone back to Briggs. We're greenlit. Jason goes in with me as a contact. We make it look like he's bringing me in for potential recruitment. Briggs didn't look happy, but he nodded. When? Tonight. Now. Before Wilson has time to relocate or tighten security further. Riley checked her watch. The Broken Spoke should be active. Saturday night, lots of traffic. Easy to blend in. I'll get the surveillance equipment, Reeves said, already moving toward the door. And I'll coordinate with State, Briggs added. Tactical team on standby but out of sight. Any sign this goes sideways, they move in. As they prepared, Riley's phone buzzed. Jason. Shaw. My handler briefed me. This is reckless. This is necessary. You in or out? A pause. In. But we do this smart. I've been building a cover as a freelance contractor looking for work. I bring you in as a trucker who's willing to transport questionable cargo. Keep it simple. Keep it believable. What's the recognition protocol? I'll be at the bar by 11. wearing a black jacket with a red pin on the lapel. You approach, say you heard, "I know people who pay well for drivers with flexible ethics." I'll take it from there. Understood. And Jason, if this goes bad, it won't, because we're professionals and professionals don't die stupid. He hung up. Riley changed in the station bathroom, trading her road clothes for something that fit the cover-worn jeans, a flannel shirt, work boots that had seen better days. She looked like exactly what she was supposed to be, a struggling independent trucker who'd hit hard times and was open to opportunities. Reeves fitted her with a wire, a nearly invisible microphone woven into her shirt collar with a transmitter no larger than a matchbook tucked into her waistband. "Range is about a mile," Reeves explained. "We'll be monitoring from a van parked 3 blocks away. Any trouble, say the word Montana, and we come running." "Montana, got it." Briggs appeared with a small pistol, a subcompact 9mm. "Take this." Riley shook her head. "Can't. They'll pat me down. Finding a weapon breaks the cover." "Then how?" Riley pulled a ceramic knife from her boot. "This passes most searches, and I know how to use it. Against guns, against anything." Riley's smile was cold. "I've had practice." The drive to the Broken Spoke took 20 minutes through increasingly rural roads. The bar sat at a crossroads, literally in the middle of nowhere, a squat building with neon beer signs in the windows, and a gravel parking lot filled with trucks, motorcycles, and beat-up sedans. Riley parked her rig at the far end of the lot, visible, but not conspicuous. She sat for a moment, breathing deeply, centering herself. This wasn't her first undercover operation. During her MP days, she'd infiltrated smuggling rings on base, posed as corrupt supply personnel, played roles that required her to become someone else entirely. But this was different. This was Wilson, the man who'd nearly killed her, the man who'd haunted her nightmares for years. She keyed her mic. "Reeves, you copy." "Copy. We have visual on your position. Thermal shows approximately 30 people inside the bar. Any outside security?" 2 at the front door. Casual posture but alert. Probably checking IDs and scanning for obvious threats. "Understood. Going in." Riley crossed the parking lot with the slightly weary stride of someone who'd driven too many hours. The security at the door, both large men with the generic tough guy look of hired muscle, gave her the expected once-over. "ID," the first one said. She produced her driver's license. He scanned it with a handheld device, checking for warrants or flags. It came back clean. "You carrying?" "No." "I need to verify that." Riley spread her arms. The pat-down was professional, thorough, but not invasive. The guard's hand skipped over the ceramic knife, exactly as she'd anticipated. Ceramic didn't feel like a weapon to someone expecting steel. "You're clear. Have a good night." Inside the Broken Spoke was exactly what she'd expected, dim lighting country music playing too loud, the smell of beer and cigarettes and sweat. The crowd was a mix of bikers, truckers, ranchers, and locals. A few heads turned as she entered the eternal assessment of newcomers, but most returned to their drinks and conversations. Riley spotted Jason at the far end of the bar, black jacket with a subtle red pin. He was nursing a beer and talking to a woman in leather who looked like she could bench press a Harley. Riley approached the bar, ordered a whiskey, and waited. Patient, letting the room settle around her presence. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Jason glanced her way, made brief eye contact, then looked away. Not yet. The bartender, a woman in her 50s with tattoos up both arms and eyes that had seen everything twice, slid Riley her drink. "You're new." "Just passing through," Riley said. "Most people are. Some stay." The bartender wiped down the bar. What brings you to our little slice of nowhere? Work, or looking for it anyway. Heard this was a place where opportunities sometimes present themselves. The bartender's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition. Depends on what kind of opportunities you're seeking. The kind that pay well, and don't ask too many questions. Those exist, but they come with risks. I'm comfortable with risk. The bartender studied her for a moment longer, then nodded almost imperceptibly and moved away. Riley had just been evaluated and apparently passed some kind of test. 2 minutes later, Jason appeared at her elbow. I couldn't help but overhear. He said, his voice pitched to carry just far enough. You're looking for work. Riley turned, feigning surprise. Maybe. Depends on what you're offering. I'm not offering anything, but I know people who are always looking for reliable drivers, people who value discretion and competence. He gestured to an empty booth. Buy you a drink. We can talk. They moved to the booth. Riley sat with her back to the wall. Old habits, and Jason slid in across from her. Name's Carter, he said. I work freelance security, connect people with opportunities. Shaw, Riley Shaw. I run independent freight. I know. Saw your rig outside. Shaw Transport. Heard you had some trouble recently. Something about bikers at a fuel stop. Riley's expression hardened, all part of the act. Word travels fast. In this business it does. But here's the thing, those bikers, they were small time. Working for people who are anything but. Jason leaned forward. Those people are always looking for drivers who can handle pressure, who don't panic when things get complicated. Complicated how? Cargo that maybe isn't entirely legal, routes that avoid certain checkpoints, deliveries that happen on tight schedules with no room for error. Jason's voice dropped. Big money for people who can deliver, but also big consequences for people who fuck up. Riley took a sip of whiskey, letting the burn steady her. I don't fuck up. That's what I heard. Also heard you put 4 men in the hospital without breaking a sweat. That true, they started it. I finished it. That a problem? Jason smiled. Opposite of a problem. Shows you can handle yourself. That's valuable. He pulled out his phone, typed something, then set it down. I can make an introduction. Tonight, if you're interested. But I need to know you're serious. This isn't the kind of thing you walk away from once you're in. Riley met his eyes. I'm serious. I need the money, and I'm tired of scraping by on legitimate runs that barely cover fuel. Good. Jason stood. Finish your drink. Someone will be here in 20 minutes. They'll want to talk to you, assess you. Be honest, but not stupid. They can spot a liar, but they respect someone who knows when to keep their mouth shut. He walked away, leaving Riley alone in the booth. Her heart was hammering, but her hands were steady as she raised the glass to her lips. 20 minutes. She had 20 minutes to prepare for whatever was coming. The bar's rhythm continued around her conversations, laughter, the clink of glasses. Normal people having normal Saturday nights, oblivious to the fact that their little watering hole was a recruitment ground for an international arms trafficking network. Riley's earbud crackled softly, Reeves barely audible. We caught that. Backup is moving closer. 2 minutes response time if needed. Riley touched her collar acknowledgement. 15 minutes passed. Then a man entered the bar who didn't fit. Too clean, too composed, wearing a suit jacket that probably cost more than most of the vehicles in the parking lot. He scanned the room with the systematic efficiency of a professional, then locked eyes with Riley. He approached her booth and sat down without invitation. Ms. Shaw, I'm told you're looking for work. His accent was faint, but unmistakable. Eastern European. Russian, maybe Ukrainian. I'm told you're offering, Riley replied. Direct, I appreciate that. He signaled the bartender for 2 drinks. "My name is Victor. I represent certain business interests that require transportation services. Discreet, reliable, no questions asked." Victor, the name Mason had mentioned, the professional in the warehouse photographs. "What kind of transportation?" "Various cargo, sometimes sensitive, sometimes regulated, always requiring absolute confidentiality." Victor's eyes were flat, emotionless, the eyes of someone who'd seen violence and felt nothing. "Our previous driver encountered legal difficulties. We need a replacement." "The previous driver being one of the bikers I put down." "Indeed, though his arrest was less problematic than his tendency to talk when nervous. You, however, seem more composed." The drinks arrived. Victor raised his glass. "To new partnerships." Riley clinked her glass against his, but didn't drink. "What's the pay?" $10,000 for the first run. Proof of concept. If you perform well, subsequent runs pay more. Much more. "What's the cargo?" For the first run, simply container transfer. You pick up from point A, deliver to point B. Very straightforward. "And if I get stopped, searched." "You won't. The routes are carefully planned. Law enforcement presence is accounted for." Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We have resources, Ms. Shaw. Extensive resources." Riley's mind was racing. He was offering her exactly what they needed: direct involvement in the trafficking operation. One run would connect her to the network, provide evidence, create legal leverage. But it also meant getting deeper into Wilson's web. Meant more risk, more exposure. "When?" she asked. "Tomorrow night. The cargo is time-sensitive. You'd pick up at a warehouse south of here, transport it to a private airfield, transfer it to our associates. 4 hours work, $10,000. "And if I say no?" Victor's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the booth seemed to drop. "Then you finish your drink, leave, and we never speak again. But Ms. Shaw, opportunities like this don't come often, and from what I understand, you need the money." How did he know that? How much intelligence did they have on her? Riley made a show of considering. "I want half up front." "Not acceptable. Full payment upon successful delivery." "Then I want details. Route, cargo weight, exact locations. I'm not going in blind." Victor studied her. "You're cautious. That's good. But excessive caution suggests lack of trust, and this business requires trust. Trust is earned. Right now, all I have is your word that this is legitimate work." "Legitimate?" Victor laughed, a sound like gravel shifting. "Ms. Shaw, nothing about this is legitimate, but it is profitable. And profit, I've found, is its own form of legitimacy." He pulled out a phone, typed rapidly, then turned the screen to show her. A map with 2 points marked. "Pick up here. Deliver here. Route highlighted. No deviations. No stops. No communication with anyone until delivery is complete." Riley memorized the locations. The pickup was the same warehouse from the photographs. The delivery was the airstrip where she'd nearly been caught hours earlier. What if something goes wrong? Mechanical failure, accident, police. "If it's genuine emergency, call this number." Victor slid a business card across the table. Plain white, just a phone number. "If it's police, you know nothing. The cargo was sealed, you were paid to transport, you're just a driver. We have lawyers who handle such complications." "And if I run with the cargo?" Victor's smile turned cold. "Then we find you, and what happened to you would make your encounter with the bikers seem pleasant by comparison." He stood. "Think about it. You have until noon tomorrow to decide. Call that number, say yes or no. No need for explanation either way." He walked away, disappearing into the crowd as smoothly as he'd appeared. Riley sat in the booth, pulse racing, but mind clear. She'd just been recruited, offered a direct role in Wilson's network, everything they needed to build a case. But something was wrong. The whole encounter felt too easy, too smooth. She touched her collar. "Did you get that?" Reeves's voice in her ear. "Every word. We have Victor on camera entering and leaving. Running facial recognition now." Riley stood and made her way toward the exit. As she passed the bar, the bartender caught her eye and nodded slightly, approval. Warning. Impossible to tell. Outside, the night air was cold and clean after the bar's atmosphere. Riley crossed the parking lot to her truck, her senses on high alert. That's when she noticed the car. A dark sedan parked 3 spots from her rig. Engine running. Tinted windows. Riley's hand moved to her ceramic blade, but she didn't draw it. Not yet. The sedan's passenger window rolled down. And there, in the dim glow of the dashboard, was a face Riley knew. Not Wilson. Someone else. Someone from Kandahar. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, her old unit leader, the man who'd led them into the ambush, the man who'd ordered her to hold the position while he went for reinforcements, the man who'd disappeared after her medical evacuation and was listed as having resigned his commission 6 months later. "Hello, Riley," Webb said. "We need to talk." Riley's world tilted. Webb was here, in Montana, connected to Wilson. "Get in," Webb said, "unless you want Victor's people to see us talking." Every instinct screamed trap, but Riley had faced down worse odds with less information. She got in the car. Webb pulled out of the parking lot, smoothly driving with practiced ease. Neither spoke for a full minute. Then Riley broke the silence. "You're working for Wilson." "I'm working against him. Have been for 3 years." Webb glanced at her. "Did you really think I resigned?" "Walked away from 18 years of service." "I didn't think about you at all," Riley lied. "You left us. Left me bleeding in the sand." "I left you to save the rest of the unit. And it worked. You survived. They survived. Mission accomplished." Webb's jaw tightened. "But that day changed everything. Wilson got away, and I realized he had help. Someone feeding him intelligence, protecting his operations. Someone inside our own command structure." Riley's mind reeled. "You're saying there's a mole, someone in military intelligence working with an arms dealer? Not just someone, multiple someones. A network." Webb turned onto a dark side road. "After you were evaxed, I started digging. Found financial irregularities, communications between officers, and known traffickers' patterns that indicated systematic corruption. So I did what I had to do. I resigned publicly and went dark, started hunting the network from the inside. And now you're here because Wilson's Montana operation is his biggest yet. The man pads in that container, they're just the beginning. He's building a pipeline weapons from Eastern Europe through the US to buyers in the Middle East and Africa. Billions of dollars, thousands of potential casualties." And Webb pulled over and turned to face her. "And you're about to blow 3 years of work by accepting Victor's offer. How did you—" "I've been watching. I'm the one who sent you the warning texts. Iron birds migrating. Our old code. I was trying to scare you off, get you to leave before you got tangled up in this." "Well, I'm tangled, and I'm not leaving." Webb's expression was pained. "Riley, you have to. If you do this run, if you transport that container, Wilson will own you. He'll have evidence of your involvement, and then he'll use you or eliminate you, whichever serves his purposes. Unless I use him first. Build a case, gather evidence, bring down the whole network. You're not equipped for this. This isn't a combat zone with clear rules of engagement. This is intelligence work, long-term infiltration, patience, and deception. You're a soldier, Riley, a good one. But this isn't your war." Riley's anger flared. "You don't get to decide that. You lost that right when you disappeared and left us all thinking you were a coward or worse. I know what you thought, what you all thought, and I let you think it because it was safer for everyone. Webb's voice softened. But Riley, I'm asking you now, as your former CO, as someone who respects the hell out of what you did in Kandahar, walk away. Let the professionals handle this. I am a professional. Was. And right now I'm the only person Wilson has seen and failed to kill. That makes me the perfect asset. It makes you a perfect target. Riley opened the car door. Then I'll be a target, but I'll be a useful one, because Wilson's going down Marcus, with or without your help. She stepped out into the night. Webb called after her. Riley, if you do this, I can't protect you. Once you're inside his operation, you're on your own. I've been on my own before, Riley said. I know how it ends. She walked back toward the bar, leaving Webb in his sedan. Her mind was churning through revelations. Webb was alive, working undercover hunting Wilson just like she was. But could she trust him? 3 years of deception? 3 years of silence. What else had he lied about? Her phone buzzed. Jason. Shaw. Where are you? Victor just left. Did he make contact? Yeah, he made an offer. Transport job tomorrow night. And I'm taking it. A pause. Riley, that's the only way forward. We need evidence. We need connection to Wilson. We need leverage. This gives us all 3. Or it gets you killed. Then make sure you're there to stop that. Riley reached her truck and climbed in. I'm calling the number tomorrow at noon. Accepting the job. You make sure your people are ready. She hung up and sat in the cab, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Tomorrow night she'd walk into Wilson's trap. But it wouldn't be his trap. It would be hers. She started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot. In her rearview mirror, she saw Webb's sedan, still parked, headlights cutting through the darkness. Watching. Always watching. Riley drove into the night, toward whatever tomorrow would bring. The hunter had become the bait, and the trap was set. Dawn broke over Montana like a wound opening across the sky, all red and raw and unforgiving. Riley stood at the window of the motel room Sheriff Briggs had arranged, watching the sun climb, and knowing that by nightfall everything would be decided. Her phone sat on the nightstand, silent, waiting for noon when she'd make the call that would put everything in motion. She'd slept 2 hours, maybe 3, haunted by dreams of Kandahar, the sand, the blood, Wilson's face, as he'd stood over her with that pistol. But mixed in now were new images, Victor's cold eyes, Webb's haunted expression, the container full of weapons that could bring down airliners full of innocent people. Her phone buzzed. Sarah Chen. Tell me you've changed your mind, Sarah said without preamble. You know I haven't. Then tell me you have a plan beyond walking into a firing squad. Riley moved away from the window. The plan is simple. I transport the container, Jason's team follows at a distance, and when the handoff happens at the airstrip, Tactical moves in. We catch Wilson and his people in the act, seize the weapons, dismantle the network. Simple plans get people killed, Riley. What about Webb? Can we trust him? I don't know. He says he's been hunting Wilson for 3 years, but he also disappeared and let everyone think he was either dead or a coward. That's a long time to maintain a cover. Or a long time to go dirty. Sarah's voice was grim. I've been running background on him since you reported contact. His resignation was clean, no flags, but his financials are interesting. He's been moving money through offshore accounts, small amounts, but consistent. Could be operational funds for undercover work or payoffs, Riley finished. Has Jason checked in? Yes. He's positioned near the warehouse. Says there's been activity all night, vehicles coming and going, heavy security presence. Whatever's in that container, they're taking it seriously. Riley checked her watch. 7 hours until noon. 7 hours to prepare to shore up the plan, to make peace with the possibility that she might not walk away from this. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. She answered, already knowing who it would be. Ms. Shaw. Victor's voice was smooth as oil on water. I hope you've made your decision. I have. I'm in. Excellent. Then we don't need to wait until noon. The timeline has accelerated. Pickup is now at 1400 hours. Same location, same instructions. Can you be ready? Riley's pulse quickened. They were moving fast, changing plans. That suggested either urgency or paranoia. I can be ready, but I want half up front like I asked. We've already discussed this. And now I'm insisting. 5,000 now, 5,000 on delivery. Otherwise I walk. A pause. Victor was calculating, weighing her value against the inconvenience. Very well. Come to the warehouse at 1300. You'll receive your advance and final instructions. But Ms. Shaw, if you fail to appear, if you involve law enforcement, if you deviate from instructions in any way, the consequences will be severe. Are we clear? Crystal. The line went dead. Riley immediately called Jason. They moved the timeline. Pick up at 1400, briefing at 1300. Damn it, that changes everything. We need time to position assets coordinate with. We have what we have. 6 hours. Make it work. Riley was already moving, grabbing her jacket, checking her ceramic blade. I'm heading to the sheriff's station. We need to brief everyone now. 40 minutes later, Riley stood in Briggs's conference room with a map spread across the table. Jason had arrived separately, still in his busboy disguise, but with the hardened edge of his real identity showing through. Reeves monitored communications, while Briggs coordinated with state tactical teams. The warehouse here, Riley pointed. Victor's meeting me at 1300 with the advance payment and final instructions. At 1400, I take possession of the container and transport it to the airstrip here. Estimated drive time is 90 minutes. Jason traced the route. We'll have surveillance drones overhead tracking your vehicle. Tactical team will parallel your route at a distance. When you reach the airstrip, they'll move in. What about Wilson? Briggs asked. Will he be there? Unknown. Victor might be running the ground operation while Wilson stays remote. But if the cargo is as valuable as we think, he'll want eyes on the exchange personally. Riley looked at each of them. When tactical moves in, it needs to be fast and overwhelming. These people are professionals. They'll have counter-surveillance escape routes, contingency plans. We get one shot. Reeves pulled up a satellite image of the airstrip. There's a problem. The terrain offers minimal cover for approach. If they have even basic security, they'll spot tactical coming from a mile away. Then we need a diversion, Jason said. Something that draws their attention while the team moves into position. Riley studied the image, her mind working through scenarios. What if the threat comes from inside? I make the delivery, but something's wrong with the container. A problem that requires Wilson's personal attention. While he's focused on that, tactical closes the net. What kind of problem? Briggs asked. Tracking device. I plant it in the container during transport, make it obvious enough that their scanners will find it during their security check. They'll panic, think they've been compromised, focus on finding who planted it. That's when we move. Jason was shaking his head. Too risky. If they find a tracker, they'll assume you planted it. You become the immediate threat. Exactly. They'll bring me to Wilson for interrogation. I get him face to face, you get your chance to take him alive. Riley's expression was determined. It's the only way to guarantee he's on site and distracted. It's also the best way to get you executed, Reeves said bluntly. Not if tactical is ready to move the second things go sideways. I can buy you maybe 5 minutes. That enough? Briggs rubbed his jaw. In theory. But Riley, if they separate you from the main group, if they take you somewhere we can't reach. Then I handle it. Like I handled the bikers, like I handled Kandahar. I'm not helpless, Sheriff. I'm trained, prepared, and I've survived worse. Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the speakerphone. Riley, this is beyond reckless. You're talking about deliberate provocation of a professional killer. I'm talking about ending this. Tonight. No more shipments, no more weapons reaching terrorists, no more innocent people at risk. Riley's voice was steel. Wilson has been operating for 2 decades. How many have died because of his weapons? How many more will if we don't stop him now? The room was silent. Everyone knew she was right. Everyone also knew the cost might be her life. All right, Sarah said finally. But you carry a panic button. The second you trigger it, every asset we have converges on your position. No hesitation, no waiting for optimal conditions. We come for you. Agreed. Jason pulled out a device the size of a quarter. Subdermal tracker. Goes under the skin on your forearm. Broadcasts your location and vital signs. Press it twice in rapid succession, it sends the panic signal. Riley rolled up her sleeve. Do it. The insertion was quick, professional, barely more painful than a vaccine. A small bandage covered the site, invisible under her shirt. One more thing, Briggs said. He produced a small evidence bag containing a flash drive. This is every piece of evidence we've gathered. Mason's testimony, the surveillance footage, financial records. If something happens to you, if this goes wrong, at least the case survives. Riley took the bag. Nothing's going wrong. We've planned for every contingency. Except the ones we haven't thought of, Reeves muttered. At 12:45, Riley climbed into her rig and started the engine. The Peterbilt rumbled to life, familiar and reassuring. She'd driven this truck for 3 years, crossed 40 states, logged 100,000 miles. It was more than transportation. It was home sanctuary, the one constant in a life that had seen too much change. Now, it was going to be her weapon. She pulled out of the motel parking lot and headed south. The warehouse was 30 minutes away through increasingly desolate country. Her mirrors showed no obvious tail, but she knew Jason's team was there, invisible, but present. The radio crackled, Jason's voice encrypted channel. We have you on satellite. All systems green. Tactical is moving into position around the airstrip. Copy. Approaching warehouse now. The building appeared ahead, concrete block, corrugated metal roof, surrounded by chain-link fence, topped with razor wire. 2 guards at the gate, both carrying rifles openly. Not subtle, not trying to hide. Riley pulled up to the gate. One guard approached, while the other maintained distance weapon ready. Shaw transport for Victor, Riley said. The guard checked a tablet, then nodded. Pull in Bay 3. Victor's waiting. The gate rolled open. Riley drove through, hyper-aware of her surroundings. Cameras on every corner. More guards positioned strategically. A white panel van backed up to Bay 1 loading something. The whole operation screamed professional logistics. Bay 3's door was open. Riley backed her trailer in with practiced precision and killed the engine. Victor appeared from a side door, accompanied by 2 men in tactical gear. Ms. Shaw, punctual. I appreciate that. He held up a manila envelope. Your advance, $5,000 as agreed. Riley took it, checked the contents. Real cash, not marked that she could see. And the cargo, in the container already loaded in Bay 2. You'll back up to it, we'll transfer it to your trailer, and you'll depart. Simple. I want to inspect it first. Victor's expression hardened. That wasn't part of the agreement. The agreement didn't include changing the timeline and rushing me. I inspect the cargo, verify it matches your description, then I transport. Otherwise, we have a problem. The tactical guards tensed hands, moving to weapons. Victor held up a hand, stopping them. Very well, but quickly. Time is a factor. They walked to Bay 2. The container sat on a flatbed, industrial and anonymous. Victor unlocked it, revealing crates packed with military precision. "Satisfied?" he asked. Riley examined the crates, noting the Cyrillic markings, the weight distribution, the securing straps. Everything matched intelligence reports. These were weapons high-value, dangerous. And somewhere in her pocket was the tracking device Jason had given her. Small magnetic designed to stick to metal surfaces. All she needed was 3 seconds unwatched. "Looks good," she said. "Let's get it loaded." The transfer took 20 minutes. Riley assisted playing the role of a trucker concerned with weight distribution and securing cargo. And during a moment when Victor was distracted by a phone call and the guards were focused on the straps, she palmed the tracker and slipped it into a gap between 2 crates. Done. "We're secure," one of the guards announced. Victor ended his call and approached Riley. "The route is programmed into this GPS. Follow it exactly. No stops, no deviations. You'll be met at the airstrip by our associates. They'll unload, verify the cargo, and provide your final payment. And if I run into trouble, call the number I gave you. But Ms. Shaw there won't be trouble. We've insured it." His smile was cold. "Safe travels." Riley climbed into her cab and started the engine. The bay door opened, revealing the road ahead. She pulled out slowly, feeling the weight of the container behind her, feeling the weight of what was coming. As she cleared the gate, her radio crackled. Jason's voice was tight. "Riley, we have a problem. Webb just appeared on surveillance. He's following you." "What? How?" "Unknown. But he's 3 vehicles back, maintaining pursuit. Do you want us to intercept?" Riley's mind raced. Webb following her meant he was either protecting his investment or preparing to interfere. Either way, it complicated everything. "Negative. Let him follow. But keep eyes on him. If he makes a move, I need to know." She drove. Watching her mirrors, watching the road, watching for any sign of betrayal or attack. The GPS guided her onto rural highways, then county roads, then onto gravel tracks that barely qualified as roads at all. And behind her, always 3 or 4 vehicles back, was Webb's sedan. 40 minutes into the drive, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Yes." "Riley, it's Marcus. Don't hang up." "Why are you following me?" "Because you're driving into an execution. That tracker you planted, they know about it. Wilson has counter-surveillance equipment that detected it the moment it activated. You're not setting a trap. You're walking into one." Riley's blood went cold. "How do you know this?" "Because I have a source inside Wilson's organization. Someone who's been feeding me intelligence for 2 years. They just sent word. Wilson knows you're coming, knows you're wired, knows tactical is waiting. He's going to let you deliver the container, then he's going to kill you and disappear before your backup can react." "Then I abort. Turn around now." "You can't. They have pursuit vehicles tracking you. You deviate from the route, they'll force you off the road and execute you there. The only way out is forward." Riley's hands tightened on the wheel. "What do you suggest? When you reach the airstrip, stay in your truck. Don't get out, don't engage. I'll create a distraction, give tactical the opening they need to move in fast. But you have to trust me." "Trust you?" "You disappeared for 3 years. Let everyone think you were a coward or a traitor, and now you expect me to trust you with my life." "Yes," Webb said simply. "Because I'm the only chance you have. And because whether you believe it or not, I've been trying to protect you since the moment you showed up in Montana." The line went dead. Riley immediately called Jason. "Webb just contacted me. Says Wilson knows about the tracker, knows we're coming, says it's a trap." "That's impossible. The tracker is passive, impossible to detect unless—" Jason stopped. "Unless they have military-grade counter-surveillance, which means someone tipped them off about what to look for. Webb says he has a source inside Wilson's organization, someone who warned him. Or Webb is the source and he's playing both sides. Jason's voice was urgent. Riley, we need to abort. This is too compromised. Can't. Webb says they have pursuit vehicles. I deviate, they'll kill me on the road. Then we intercept now. Tactical can... No, we proceed. But we adapt. Riley's mind was working through alternatives, through scenarios. Wilson thinks he's got me, that's an advantage. Let him think it. Let him get comfortable. Then we flip it. How? The container. If Wilson thinks I'm compromised, he'll want to verify the cargo himself before eliminating me. That brings him out in the open. That gives us our shot. Sarah Chen's voice cut in. Riley, that's not a plan. That's suicide with extra steps. It's all we have. Unless you want to let Wilson walk, let those weapons reach their destination. Let more people die. Silence on the line. Then Sarah. Damn it, all right. But the second this goes wrong, you trigger that panic button. We'll burn the whole operation to get you out. Understood. Riley drove on the airstrip, growing closer with each mile. The sun was lowering toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. Beautiful. Deceptive. Like everything else about this operation. Her mirrors showed Webb still following, maintaining distance. And now she noticed other vehicles, too. A pickup truck that had been behind her for 20 miles. An SUV that appeared whenever she crested a ridge. Wilson's people boxing her in, ensuring she delivered her cargo. The GPS announced, destination ahead, 1 mile. Riley's heart hammered, but her hands were steady. This was it. The moment everything had been building toward, the airstrip appeared the same one from the surveillance, but now crawling with activity. The cargo plane sat ready ramp down. Vehicles positioned defensively. Armed guards visible everywhere. And standing near the plane supervising the operation was Charles Wilson. Even at a distance, even after all these years, Riley knew him. The way he stood, the way he gestured, the absolute confidence of a man who'd never truly been threatened. She pulled her rig onto the tarmac and stopped where a guard directed her. Immediately, 3 men with rifles surrounded her truck. Out of the vehicle, one commanded. Hands visible. Riley opened her door and stepped down. The men patted her down, thorough professional, and found the ceramic knife immediately. Well, well, one said, holding it up. Not so innocent after all. They marched her toward Wilson. Every step felt like walking through deep water. Every breath was conscious, deliberate. Wilson turned as she approached, and his eyes lit with recognition. Riley Shaw, he said, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. I wondered if you'd remember me. Seems you do. I remember, Riley said. Kandahar, you shot me twice and left me to die. And yet here you stand. Resilient. Admirable, really. He circled her slowly, a predator assessing prey. Though I must say your career change is disappointing. Military police to truck driver. Such a waste of talent. Says the man hiding behind bikers and shell companies. Wilson's smile faded. I don't hide, Ms. Shaw. I operate. There's a difference. And speaking of operations, he gestured to her truck. I understand you've been operating yourself, working with federal authorities, planting tracking devices, gathering evidence. Riley's face remained neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Please. I have counter-surveillance equipment worth more than your truck. I detected the tracker the moment it activated. And your wire crude. Obvious. He stepped closer. So let's dispense with the theater. You're working with the government. You've been sent to infiltrate my operation. And now you're going to tell me everything who sent you, what they know, what the plan is. Or what? Or you die, slowly, painfully, in ways that would make your Kandahar experience seem pleasant. Wilson nodded to his guards. Take her to the hangar. Let's have a proper conversation. They grabbed her arms. This was it. The moment Tactical should move in. But Riley saw no signs of approach, no indication of rescue. Something had gone wrong. Then gunfire erupted from the perimeter. Not Tactical. Different direction. Different tactics. Webb. He'd created his distraction just as he'd promised. Guards scattered, seeking cover, returning fire. In the chaos, Riley acted. She drove her elbow into the guard on her right, breaking his nose, grabbed his rifle as he stumbled, spun and used it to block the second guard's strike. Then she ran, not toward cover, but toward Wilson. He was moving toward his vehicle, protected by his remaining guards. Riley sprinted, closing the distance. 20 feet. 15. 10. A guard stepped into her path. She slid under his grab, came up inside his reach, and used his own momentum to throw him. Then she was face to face with Wilson. His hand went to his pistol. Riley was faster. She grabbed his wrist, twisted, and the gun fell. They grappled, professional against professional, training against training. But Riley had something Wilson didn't. She had rage. Controlled, focused, burning rage for every person his weapons had killed, every family destroyed, every life ended in the name of profit. She drove him backward into the side of his vehicle. His head hit metal with a satisfying crack. "On your knees," she commanded. "Hands behind your head." Wilson smiled through blood. "You won't shoot me. You're too professional. Too bound by rules. Try me." "Riley," Jason's voice behind her. "Don't." She glanced back. Tactical had arrived, finally moving in from multiple directions. Jason was sprinting toward her, weapon drawn. "He's right," Jason called. "We need him alive, for trial, for justice. Don't throw it away now." Riley's finger tightened on the trigger. It would be so easy. One pull. End the man who'd haunted her nightmares, who'd nearly killed her, who'd caused so much death. But Jason was right. Justice wasn't revenge. Justice was the law, was process, was ensuring Wilson faced every charge, every victim's family, every consequence. She lowered the weapon. "On your knees, now!" Wilson, seeing he'd lost, complied. Jason reached them, cuffing Wilson with practiced efficiency. "Charles Wilson, you're under arrest for arms trafficking, conspiracy, attempted murder, and about 40 other charges we're going to spend weeks detailing." Around them, Tactical was securing the site. Guards were being cuffed, cargo secured, evidence gathered. The operation was over. Riley stepped back, suddenly exhausted. Adrenaline was fading, leaving her hollow. Reeves appeared, pulling Riley into an unexpected hug. "You insane, brave, stupid woman. You actually did it." "We did it," Riley corrected. "All of us." Sheriff Briggs approached his expression a mix of relief and professional concern. "We're going to need statements. Lots of statements. And probably a federal inquiry into why you went so far off script." "Worth it," Riley said. Webb emerged from the shadows where he'd created the diversion. He was limping, favoring his left side, but alive. He approached Riley carefully. "You doubted me," he said. "You earned doubt. 3 years of silence. 3 years of hunting. And now it's done." He looked at Wilson, secured and defeated. "Thank you for trusting me when it counted." Sarah Chen arrived via helicopter, touching down near the plane. She walked straight to Riley and, without a word, embraced her. "You're going to give me gray hair," Sarah said. "Too late. I see some already." They laughed, the kind of laughter that comes after impossible odds are overcome. Over the next hours, the site was processed. The container was opened under controlled conditions, revealing not just man-pads, but a fortune in military-grade weapons. Enough evidence to guarantee Wilson would spend the rest of his life in federal prison. Victor was captured trying to escape in a supply truck. Mason Dane, in custody, was offered full witness protection in exchange for testimony. The network was unraveling, each thread leading to more arrests, more seizures. 3 days later, Riley stood in Sheriff Briggs's office for the last time. Her statement was complete, her role in the operation documented, and surprisingly praised. "Federal government wants to offer you a position," Briggs said. "Consultant, training other officers in tactics and infiltration." Riley considered. "What did you tell them?" "That you'd probably say no, that you value your independence too much." "Smart man." Riley picked up her jacket. "But tell them maybe. After I finish a few more runs, clear my head, remember why I chose the open road." "Fair enough." Briggs extended his hand. "You did good work here, Shaw. Real good. This county owes you. The county owes Earl and Jay Jason for their courage, owes Reeves for her professionalism, you for trusting a stranger." Riley shook his hand. "I just did what needed doing." Outside her Peterbilt sat gleaming in the morning sun. Earl had insisted on detailing it, said it was the least he could do. Jay Jason had left a note on the seat. "Next time you need backup, call me. Jay." Riley climbed into the cab and started the engine. The familiar rumble surrounded her, comforting and constant. Her phone buzzed. "Sarah." "Where'd you headed?" "West. Maybe California. Maybe just wherever the road takes me." "The offer stands. Anytime you want back in, you have a place." "I know. And Sarah, thank you. For the codes, for the backup, for everything. Thank you for being exactly who you've always been, too stubborn to quit and too skilled to fail. Drive safe, Riley." Riley pulled onto the highway, the Montana landscape spreading before her in endless possibility. The sun was bright. The road was clear, and for the first time in years, the ghosts of Kandahar were quiet. Her phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But habit made her. "Shaw Transport." "Ms. Shaw, this is Deputy Director Chen Different Chen, FBI. We have a situation in Nevada. Smuggling operation, military contractor involvement. We could use someone with your particular skills." Riley looked at the road ahead, then at her GPS, showing the route west. "Send me the details," she said. "I'll think about it." "We need an answer soon." "Then you'll have one." Riley smiled. "But right now I've got a delivery to make. Legitimate cargo, legal route, honest work. Let me remember what that feels like." She hung up and accelerated the Peterbilt, eating miles with effortless power. Behind her, Montana receded into memory. The diner, the fight, the airstrip, Wilson's defeated face. Ahead, the horizon beckoned with new roads, new challenges, new chances to do what she did best. Riley Shaw, independent trucker, former military police, current problem solver, drove into the future with her eyes open and her hands steady. The road was long, but she'd traveled longer ones, and whatever came next, she'd be ready. The Peterbilt's engine hummed a steady rhythm, and Riley Shaw smiled, free and alive and moving forward. Always forward, the end of one journey, the beginning of the next. And somewhere on some dark road in some troubled county, someone would need her skills again. She'd be there, because that's who she was. That's who she'd always be, a soldier without a war, a warrior without a battle. Until the next fight found her, and it always did.